All right, let's jump right into this explainer and tackle what has to be one of biology's most baffling paradoxes. Why on earth do we spend a full third of our entire lifespan completely vulnerable, unconscious, and seemingly entirely unproductive? I mean, from the outside looking in, sleep seems like a massive evolutionary blunder. Yet, it's a fundamental requirement for literally every animal species ever studied. So, today, we're going to unpack the biological, cognitive, and evolutionary functions of sleep and find out exactly what your brain is up to when the lights go out.
Think about it from a pure survival standpoint for a second. Completely disconnecting from your environment is incredibly dangerous. You can't forage for food, you can't reproduce, and you definitely can't keep an eye out for predators. But again, every species requires it. So to offset this huge vulnerability, sleep has to provide something absolutely essential. One basic function is energy conservation, dropping our metabolic rates by about 5 to 25%. But as we're about to see, the real story goes way, way beyond just saving a few calories.
So, to actually solve this puzzle, researchers have to find hypotheses that check 5 major biological boxes. Any real explanation for sleep has to account for why we partially disconnect from the world, why our brains suddenly show intense neural activity, why it's a universal law across all species, why babies need so much of it early in life, and finally, why we cycle back and forth between non-rapid eye movement, or NREM, and REM sleep stages. Section 1. Restoring the tired brain, the biological remedy. Now sure, your body can physically rest if you just sit still in a chair for a while, but your brain actually needs sleep for its heavy-duty maintenance. Being awake literally causes synaptic fatigue, and sleep is the antidote. It's a time for incredible microscopic housekeeping. We're talking replenishing glycogen in glial stores, giving cellular mitochondria a well-deserved break, recycling membranes, and transferring proteins along axons. And we know now that slow-wave sleep, that deep stage 3 and 4 delta sleep, is absolutely crucial for this restorative work. If you're deficient in slow-wave sleep, you're looking at increased daytime fatigue, cognitive dysfunction, and even enhanced subjective feelings of pain. And the sleeping brain isn't just switched off. Far from it. When you see an EEG recording of human rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, the brain waves are jagged, highly activated, and honestly look just like a waking brain. It's wild. During this paradoxical state, your brain is firing on all cylinders, orchestrating these vital physiological tune-ups, all while your skeletal muscles are temporarily paralyzed so you don't literally act out that intense neural activity. Section 2. Consolidating memory and learning, the brain's offline mode. Okay, think of your brain like a computer for a second. During the day, you're in online mode. You're constantly downloading new data, but because of that, you're highly vulnerable to sensory interference. When you sleep, your brain switches to offline mode. Taking away that sensory input allows your brain to safely reactivate the exact neural circuits that fired during the day. It integrates new memories with the old ones without what researchers call catastrophic interference. If you tried to do all that complex filing while awake, it would be total chaos. Sleep is the perfect, quiet sandbox for memories to safely take root. You've almost certainly experienced this one firsthand. You know when you're struggling with a frustrating task all day? Maybe trying to learn a complex piece of music, a new software shortcut, or even a golf swing, and you're just hitting a wall, but then you get a good night's sleep, wake up, and suddenly do it effortlessly? That's not magic. That's sleep providing the exact neural reactivation needed to turn a frustrating daily task into a permanent learned skill. It's an absolute game changer. Which brings us to Section 3, Development and Brain Plasticity. Building the brain. Beyond just processing our daily memories, sleep is foundational for building the brain in early life. Just map out the timeline. At merely 24 weeks gestation, sleep-wake EEG patterns are already beginning. Newborns sleep a massive 14 to 17 hours a day, and roughly half of that is in active REM sleep. They're literally using this internal, self-generated neural activity to wire their brains before they can fully interact with the outside world. And then, right around 3 to 4 months, we see this crucial shift toward a more adult-like consolidated sleep pattern. And the stakes during these early developmental windows are incredibly high. Studies actually show that depriving newborns of specific sleep stages totally disrupts the physical development of sensory systems, like their visual circuits. Because sleep is so intimately tied to synaptic maturation and plasticity, severe sleep disruptions in early life carry a very real, documented risk for psychopathological issues later on down the line. Let's pivot to Section 4, the cost of sleep deprivation, a catastrophic breakdown. The reality of how we're doing as a society is, frankly, pretty staggering. It's estimated that roughly 35 to 40% of Americans suffer from chronic sleep disorders. So we're talking about a massive chunk of the population walking around every single day with severe cognitive impairments, attention deficits, short-term memory, inflexible thinking. And the really tricky part, when you're sleep deprived, you consistently underestimate how impaired you actually are. And that lack of awareness translates directly into real-world danger. Every single year, drowsy driving causes at least 100,000 automobile crashes. It's not just that your reaction time gets sluggish. It's that your performance becomes completely unreliable. You might dodge one hazard perfectly fine and then totally fail to even register the very next one. A lot of this terrifying inconsistency comes down to something called microsleeps. When the homeostatic pressure to sleep gets too intense, your brain will literally force you offline, even if you're standing up, operating heavy machinery, or driving a car down the highway. For just a few seconds, your waking EEG suddenly flips to a sleep pattern. Your neurons essentially go rogue, demanding the downtime they've been starved of. And if you push that deprivation to the absolute limit in animal studies, the results are harrowing. Using the disc over water method to study chronic sleep deprivation, researchers observed a lethal deprivation syndrome. It happens in brutal stages. First, you see a dramatic spike in food intake and heart rate. Then, despite all that extra eating, body weight and brain temperature suddenly crash. And finally, within just 2 to 3 weeks, inevitable physiological failure and death. Even fruit flies die if they don't sleep. It really proves that sleep isn't some luxury. It is a non-negotiable biological mandate. In fact, researchers found that even with extreme interventions, like direct electrical brain stimulation, they couldn't force complete wakefulness after the first 24 hours. You just can't beat it. Your brain builds up this immense sleep pressure, likely driven by a neuromodulator called adenosine, and it will eventually crush whatever artificial methods you're using to stay awake. It's an unstoppable evolutionary force. Knowing all of this, the big question you have to ask yourself tonight is, are you actually respecting your brain's biological limits? Are you practicing good sleep hygiene, maintaining a regular bedtime, keeping your bed strictly for sleep, avoiding daytime naps, and keeping your room dark, quiet, and cool? These aren't just wellness fads, they are scientifically backed protocols for survival. Cut off the caffeine, alcohol, and heavy meals long before bed. Use the 20-minute rule. If you can't fall asleep in 20 minutes, get out of bed, and whatever you do, don't watch the clock. And tomorrow, get some bright morning light to reset that circadian rhythm. So as you wind down tonight, ask yourself, are you setting up the optimal environment to let your brain perform its miraculous, life-saving, offline work?
If you like the content, please like and subscribe.